Why do you feel drained, unmotivated, and stuck, even though you're working hard? The problem isn't effort. It's where your focus goes, your energy flows. In 2025, the biggest threat to your success isn't failure. It's distraction. This message is your wake-up call. This year is not about proving yourself to others. It's about building something so solid that no one can question it, even in silence. This message isn't hype, it's a blueprint. If you're ready to break free from noise and get laser focused, keep watching. You want to change your life, right? But you wake up every day feeling drained, distracted, like your energy is slipping through your fingers before you've even had your first cup of coffee. And you wonder, what's wrong with me? You think maybe you're lazy, maybe you're not as disciplined as others, maybe motivation just isn't your thing. But I'll tell you the truth, and I need you to hear it, not just listen. Here, IG, you're not lazy, you're leaking. You're leaking energy constantly into things that do not deserve it, into conversations that don't matter, into arguments that go nowhere, into opinions that never fed your soul but always managed to poke holes in your confidence. You're letting the outside world rent space in your mind and it's draining for you. Now, listen, your energy is your currency. That's it. That's the core of this entire thing. The way you spend your energy, minute by minute, hour by hour, is the same as spending money. Every conversation, every scroll, every distraction, that's a transaction. But the truth is, most people are spiritually bankrupt, emotionally in debt. Why? Because they've spent their life giving away their energy to people, problems, and patterns that give nothing back. I met someone recently. His name was Devon, mid-30s, smart, talented. He used to be an up-and-coming graphic designer, had clients lined up, a great portfolio, even got offers from some of the biggest agencies in the city. But you know what took him down? Not a lack of skill, not a bad economy. It was burnout, the kind that doesn't show up overnight. It sneaks in, little by little. Every time he'd open social media and compare his work to someone else's. Every time he responded to toxic messages because he didn't want to seem rude. Every time he said yes when his body was screaming no. He told me, I thought I was working hard, but I was just spreading myself thin, constantly reacting to things I had no business engaging with. And that right there, that's the trap most people fall into. You think you're doing the work, but really, you're dancing with distractions. You're not tired because you're climbing mountains. You're tired because you're running in circles. Let me tell you something I've learned from coaching high performers, athletes, CEOs, artists. The people who truly make an impact, they guard their energy like their life depends on it. Because it does. These people, they're not available for drama. They're not scrolling for hours. They're not engaging in pointless debates online. They're not accessible 24/7. Why? Because they know what they're building requires something rare. Focus, and focus can't survive in noise. You don't see the lion arguing with sheep on the hill. You don't see the surgeon checking Instagram mid-operation. You don't see Olympic athletes wasting time explaining their training to critics. They've got tunnel vision, and that tunnel is lined with boundaries. See, boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They tell the world, this is what gets access to me, and this is what doesn't. And I know some of you struggle with that word, boundaries. You think it makes you cold or arrogant. You've been conditioned to believe that being available all the time makes you kind. But being constantly available doesn't make you kind. It makes you exhausted. And from that exhaustion, you can't give your best to anyone. not your family, not your goals, not even yourself. You can't give what you don't have. There's this myth that success is about doing more hours, more calls, more hustle. But the truth, the real truth, success is often about doing less, but doing it with all your energy focused and aligned. It's not about grinding 247. It's about protecting your most valuable asset so when you do show up, you're on fire. Remember this, energy is contagious. When you protect yours, you start showing up differently. You walk into a room and people feel something. You bring clarity, you bring calm, you bring leadership. But when your energy is scattered, people feel that too. You walk in and your anxiety enters first. Your burnout speaks louder than your words. Your mind is still arguing with someone from last week while your body is trying to perform today. Is it money? That's not presence. That's fragmentation. And listen, you can't afford fragmentation anymore. Not in 2025. This is a year where distractions are louder, faster, smarter. Technology doesn't sleep. Opinions are cheaper than ever. And if you don't get intentional about where your energy goes, it will be spent for you. You've got to unplug from the circus. You've got to learn to say no without guilt. You've got to stop explaining your piece to people who live in chaos. There was a young woman I coached last year, Nina. She was a powerhouse, but stuck. Her business was plateauing. She was tired all the time. She had no inspiration left. I asked her to track how she spent her day for 1 week. Just write it down every hour. She came back, and I'll never forget this. She looked at the sheet and said, I didn't realize how much of my life I gave away for free. Meetings that didn't matter. Texts that didn't need replies. Calls that could have been declined. And then she said the most powerful thing. I thought I was being productive, but I was really being available. Let that hit you. Being available isn't the same as being valuable. You want to build something meaningful. You want to have energy at the end of the day. Then stop giving it away to things that don't move the needle. Ask yourself every hour, is this a deposit or a withdrawal? Because your life, your focus, your peace, it's a bank account, and you only get so many withdrawals before it's empty. This is where silence becomes a weapon. Because when you go quiet, intentionally, it freaks people out. They're not used to it. The world is noisy, constantly talking, posting, reacting. But when you retreat, when you focus inward, when you stop broadcasting and start building, something incredible happens. You start hearing your own voice again. You stop echoing the world and start aligning with your purpose. There's a reason why the most powerful moments in life often come in silence. Why monks train in silence. Why athletes visualize in silence. Why breakthroughs happen in stillness, not in chaos. Protecting your energy is about more than boundaries. It's about identity. It's about saying, I am not just someone who reacts. I am someone who creates, who chooses. And creation requires power. Power requires focus. And focus requires silence. So ask yourself, what am I allowing into my space that doesn't deserve to be there? What conversations am I entertaining out of habit, not alignment? What people am I saying yes to out of fear, not purpose? You want to win in 2025? Then protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You don't owe the world access to you. Read that again. Let it sink in. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that being available all the time is noble, that sharing every detail of your life is transparency. And that, if you're not constantly seen or explaining yourself, then maybe you're falling behind. But what if I told you that the opposite is true? What if the real power, the real growth happens in silence, in the spaces where no one is watching? We live in a time where everyone's broadcasting. Social media has turned our lives into highlight reels, and it tricks you into thinking that being seen is the same thing as being valuable. But listen, visibility doesn't equal growth. Some of the strongest, most powerful transformations you'll ever go through, they won't be visible. Not yet. Because true growth, it's personal, it's quiet, and it doesn't always look impressive at first. People want to see the result. They want to celebrate the outcome. But what about the process? What about the pain, the discipline, the 1,000 micro decisions no one claps for? That stuff doesn't go viral. That stuff doesn't trend. But that's where the real change happens. Let me tell you about someone. Her name's Rachel, mid-20s, ambitious, driven. She had this deep desire to build her own business, to do something meaningful, but every time she made progress, she'd post it. Every new client, screenshot, every small win, captioned and shared. At first, it looked like momentum, but underneath, she was stuck. She told me, I felt like I wasn't building a business. I was performing one. Every post needed validation. Every step had to be seen. And if it wasn't liked or praised, she'd spiral. Doubt would creep in. Imposter syndrome would sit on her shoulder like a shadow whispering, "You're not enough unless they see you." So, I asked her something simply. What would you build if no one ever knew you built it? She got quiet. Tears welled up. Because somewhere inside, she realized she wasn't just building for herself. She was building for approval. You see, you don't owe people access to your process. Not your coworkers, not your distant relatives, not your high school friend list. What you're building right now, your goals, your healing, your comeback, it's yours. And it doesn't require an audience to be real. Growth needs privacy. Think of a seed underground. It's not weak because it's hidden. It's getting strong, pushing through dirt, forming roots. And no one claps for that part. No one posts about that part. But without it, there's no tree. There's no fruit. That seed in silence becomes the thing that changes everything. You've got to stop explaining your journey to people who aren't even walking. You've got to stop inviting opinions from people who don't carry your burdens. There's a difference between isolation and intentional solitude. Isolation says, I'm alone because I'm broken. But solitude says, I'm alone because I'm building. It's okay to retreat. It's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay if people think you've disappeared, because you're not disappearing. You're developing. You're doing the unglamorous, unfiltered, often painful work of becoming who you were actually meant to be. And here's the truth. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. Some people only want access to your life so they can measure their own. Some people want you to stay the same so they don't feel guilty about not changing. And when you pull away, when you set boundaries, when you say, this part of my life is private, they'll say you've changed. Yes, that's the point. You are not here to be accessible to 247. You are not here to update everyone on your every move. You are not obligated to open the doors to your soul every time someone knocks. This is your life, your timeline, your growth. And sometimes the best thing you can do is go silent. Not out of fear, but not as you're hiding, but because you're preparing. So let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them talk. Is it money? While they do that, you evoke, you build, because when you finally reappear, you won't need to explain anything. Your results will speak. Focus. That word, it sounds simple, doesn't it? Just 5 letters. But it holds the power to completely transform your life. And yet, it's one of the hardest things to hold on to in this world full of noise. I'm not talking about ordinary focus either. I'm talking about radical focus. The kind of focus that makes you unstoppable. The kind that builds legacies. The kind that forces the universe to pay attention. Most people live distracted. They wake up and check their phone before they even breathe in purpose. Before their feet hit the floor, they're already reacting. Notifications, messages, updates. Everything designed to pull their attention outward. And day after day, they wonder why nothing changes. Why their goals stay stuck on paper. Why they're tired, uninspired, and always chasing clarity. It's not because they don't have dreams. It's because they don't have focus. You can have the best strategy in the world, the greatest idea, the biggest potential. But if your mind is divided, if your energy is spread thin, it won't matter. You're pouring from a cup that's constantly leaking. You're sprinting in 10 directions at once, never arriving anywhere. And let's be honest, that kind of exhaustion isn't physical. It's mental. It's emotional. It's spiritual. There's a reason successful people protect their time like it's sacred. Because it is. They know that what you focus on expands. Every time you give your attention to something, you're feeding it. Think about that for a second. Are you feeding fear or faith? Are you fueling growth or gossip? Are you focused on your vision or someone else's timeline? Let me tell you about Marcus, a client I worked with. Brilliant mind, incredible heart, but scattered. He had too many goals, too many maybes. Too many distractions disguised as opportunities. He kept trying to do it all. And do you know what doing it all leads to? Nothing done well. So, I asked him one question. If everything is important, then what's actually important? Silence. Then clarity. We stripped it all down. One goal. One path. 1 year. Relentless focus. He started waking up earlier, not to check email, but to align with intention. He deleted every app that didn't serve his purpose. He cut out noise, protected his mornings. Said no more than he said yes. And in 12 months, he didn't just change his results, he changed his identity. Because that's what radical focus does. It transforms who you are. It's not just about getting things done. It's about becoming someone who follows through, someone who commits, someone who doesn't derailed every time life throws a shiny object or a storm. When you focus, you stop reacting, you start creating, you stop playing defense and start living offense. But here's the catch. Focus requires sacrifice. It requires you to let go of the things you could do to become great at the thing you must do. That's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It means telling people, not now. It means closing doors. It means being misunderstood. People might say, you've changed. Or, you're too intense. Let them. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't born to be average. You were born to build. And builders don't stop halfway to explain their blueprint. When you lock in, truly lock in, everything changes. Your confidence grows because you start keeping promises to yourself. Your productivity skyrockets because you're not constantly restarting. And your vision becomes magnetic because you're no longer giving equal attention to things that don't deserve it. Look, focus is a muscle. If you've been distracted for years, don't expect to master it overnight. You're going to slip. You're going to have days where your mind wanders. That's okay. What matters is that you keep returning over and over. Bring it back. Realign, refocus. Because every time you do, that muscle gets stronger. And eventually, you become unshakable. Imagine what your life would look like 6 months from now if you locked in on one thing. One goal, one mission. No detours. No explanations, just focus. Imagine the clarity you'd have, the momentum, the power in your step. You'd stop hoping and start moving. You'd stop wondering and start building. You wouldn't just be busy, you'd be effective. You can't buy that kind of power. You earn it by choosing focus again and again, even when everything else is screaming for your attention, especially then, because that's when it counts the most. Let your silence speak your evolution. Sounds simple, right? But it's not. Not in a world like this, where everyone wants to be heard, where every move is broadcast, every thought uploaded, every win exaggerated. We've been conditioned to believe that if we're not talking about it, then it must not be real. But the truth is that the loudest person in the room isn't always the most powerful. The one who's silent and working usually is. You don't need to explain your journey. You don't need to post every step. You don't owe the world a roadmap to your growth. Because what's unfolding in you, it's sacred, it's quiet, it's personal, and most of all, it's yours. There's this pressure now to constantly announce progress, to prove that we're evolving, that we're doing the inner work, that we're chasing something meaningful. But let me ask you, who are you trying to prove it to? And money? And why? Sometimes silence is the greatest form of power. It doesn't beg. It doesn't compete. It just becomes. And when you're in the process of becoming, you don't need applause. You don't need validation. You don't need to be understood. You just need to be consistent. I remember speaking to a man once, mid-40s, recovering from years of broken habits and missed chances. He told me, I used to make a big deal about starting over. Every time I try to fix my life, I'd announce it. I'd tell everyone, this is it, I'm back. And every time I failed, I'd feel like I'd let the world down. You know what he did differently the last time? He stayed quiet. He didn't post about the gym, he just went. He didn't talk about quitting drinking, he just stopped. He didn't brag about new routines, he just built them day by day. And eventually people started asking, you look different. What changed? And all he said was, everything. That's the power of silence. When you stop trying to convince people and you just do the work, something shifts. You go from noise to momentum, from performance to purpose, from trying to be seen to actually becoming. Because real evolution, it doesn't need a stage. It doesn't crave likes or comments. It craves commitment. Quiet mornings, early nights, deep focus, long walks, uncomfortable conversations with yourself in the dark. The kind of work no one claps for. But that's where everything changes. And look, I get it. It's hard to stay silent in a world that rewards visibility. Everyone wants to show the result. The new body, the 6-figure launch, the fresh relationship. But no one shows the lonely nights, the relapses, the doubt, the healing that takes place in private. But that's where it actually happens. There's a strength in being misunderstood, in letting people think whatever they want while you keep moving forward, in knowing that one day, when you do speak, your presence will say more than your words ever could, because the work will be undeniable. The glow, the peace, the discipline, the stability, it'll radiate, and you won't need to say, look at me. They'll already see it. Sometimes the best response is no response. Sometimes growth sounds like silence, like deleting a message instead of replying, like walking away instead of defending yourself, like taking a breath instead of proving your point. That's not weakness, that's evolution. It takes maturity to realize that proving yourself is a distraction. You don't need to update people who don't check in with you. You don't need to impress those who wouldn't clap for you anyway? Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them gossip. While they do that, you train. You healed. You don't owe explanations for your boundaries. You don't need to justify your isolation. When a seed is planted, it disappears for a while. No one says, "Is it even growing?" Because we know the roots are forming. The foundation is built beneath the surface. And when it breaks through the soil, it's stronger, deeper, unstoppable. That's what you're doing right now, forming roots. So don't be discouraged if no one notices yet. Don't let the silence fool you into thinking nothing's happening. Because sometimes silence isn't the absence of progress. It's the proof of it. The deepest growth always happens in the quietest seasons. When no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's just you. And the work, so in 2025, cut the noise, shut the doors that keep opening to distractions. Log out of the conversations that do nothing but drain your power. Say no more often. Say yes only when your soul leans forward. This isn't the year for small talk. It's not the year to explain yourself to people who don't even hear you. This is the year you focus. Lock in. Go quiet. Let your grind get louder than your words. Let your results enter rooms before you do. Let the work speak, the peace grow, the fire build. Because truthfully, most won't understand the silence at first. That's okay. Let them talk. Let them wonder. You're not building for them anyway. You're building for what's ahead. You're moving different now. Focused. Aligned. And yes, silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you've got too much to do. The most dangerous person is the one who's no longer trying to impress, just trying to improve, day by day, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. They don't see it now, but soon they will. When you walk back into the light, you won't be the same. You'll be undeniable. Not because you told them, because you showed them.